Hello and welcome to the Trailblazers podcast, where we chat with incredible women in business and we talk about their journeys, their pivots, and their missions, which are reshaping industries. Today's guest launched a tech startup at 55, not because she wanted to break into tech, but because, like many of us ladies who have a lot of juggling to do, life admin was breaking her. And I'm sure many of us can relate to that. I know I can, especially to late fees, lost documents, and to endless overwhelm. But she's the woman who turned her frustration into an innovation. And today I'm joined by Ann Reid, founder and CEO of Doqit, a life admin app on a mission to simplify the chaos. Hello, Ann, and lovely to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks for being here. And it is about amplifying as well. It's about amplifying that you don't need the chaos, that we can help. And thank you for inviting me on. I'm really delighted to be here. Looking forward to our chat.
What did life look like in that moment you realised there has to be a better way to manage all this and then build a Doqit? Because I'm super interested in this, because any woman listening, I'm sure, knows that you can get bogged down in this. Like I have been bogged down in this all morning, it feels like, yesterday and today.
So there was a tipping point. So there had been a build-up. So I had gone through a divorce. My daughter Chloe has got complex additional needs. Both of those life events came with their own small rainforests of paperwork. But as time moved on and life became less about paper and more hybrid, so we had apps, platforms, Excel spreadsheets, PDFs, yellow stickies on the fridge. And I had lots of safe places. Here's the safe file for this. Here's important documents there. And it was after 3 years that I was late paying my tax return. And I was a single mum. And that £100 fine, because I couldn't find my UTR, I couldn't find my government gateway again. And it was like, for the love of God, there has to be a better way. And I actually asked a few people and I said, what do you use? Because there was loads of productivity organisation, but everything was clunky and was trying to do too much. It was like, I just wanted something simple that was unobtrusive. And everybody was like, oh God, no, but let me tell you, I was paying my insurance twice. I couldn't find this. So nobody had an answer, but everyone had a problem. And I thought, there's something here. So I started to dig a bit more, and that I found out that actually it's a sort of global challenge that's silently eating away at particularly working parents. And I thought, somebody's going to fix this. Why not me? But the tipping point was just another £100 that I would rather have set fire to in my back garden.
Oh, I don't blame you. When you started this, you must have had some quiet doubts, especially because it sounds like you wanted to solve a problem that so many of us had, but maybe didn't quite know how you were going to go about doing that. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? What were the quiet doubts that you had to wrestle with, not just from other people, but from yourself and your head as well, when you were launching Doqit and entering the tech world, which from the outside, I'll be honest with you, Ann, it feels like it's probably a bit of a man's world.
So it is very much a male-dominated environment, the tech. And it's becoming less so. There's a lot of really trailblazing women out there in tech. The biggest doubt was I didn't know how things were going to work, how it was going to pan out, how I was going to feed my child, all of those things. But I'm a risk taker, and I was looking at Chloe, my daughter, and I thought, right, I need to provide a future for you for when I'm not here. And although I was doing freelance work, I thought, yeah, that's not going to be giving you the platinum life that you're used to, being served everything, lady. And I just thought, I'm just going to do it. And I think being older, so being an older entrepreneur gave me a lot of advantage because I've always had a really strong network. So I wasn't scared to ask for help. I wasn't scared to speak to people to say, what do you think? A lot of people were at that time, so very early on. So it was actually 8 years ago, I set my intention, and I did something that is a bit back crazy, which was I registered a company in Companies House which is something that you shouldn't be the first thing you do, but it was. And that was me kind of saying to myself, right, I am going to do this. But although I knew technology was coming down the line because my background was working in communications, in the past I'd had clients like Motorola Semiconductors, where back in the 90s, they were saying that flip phone, that's going to, making calls is the last thing you're going to be doing on your phone. You're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing all the things that we're doing now. And that was like 30 years ago. So I knew that things were going to happen and change. But my big doubt was how was adoption. That I think now that I'm talking through it was adoption. And changing consumer behaviour was certainly something that needed to happen. And it wasn't something that someone working in their daughter's playroom, converted conveniently as an office, was going to do. But COVID did.
Oh, that's interesting. How did it?
So COVID was a game changer because right up until then, so an example I always use is if you turn back the clocks 5 years and you said you're walking up the high street and you first 100 people you met and you said to them, do you know what a QR code is? They would have said, not sure, certainly don't trust it. There was a lot of resistance to technology. People weren't using phones so much for conversations like this. Yeah. COVID changed it. So it broke down a lot of the unnecessary barriers to trust and entry with technology. So, and people became less reliant on paper because remember there was a time, not only fear, and it was only a couple of years ago, people were spraying stuff that came through the letterbox with Dettol. So it was like, where's my paper? So it was starting to use different, people started to access their information through maybe their insurance portal, their pension portal. So people started to use it going, God, this is much easier. So that was the consumer behavioural change. I would love to take credit for it, but it was COVID.
Very interesting you say that, actually, because Apple Pay had been around for a while before COVID. But I only really used it when COVID came.
Yeah.
My sister's like, what are you doing taking out all these cards and bags? You can just take your phone and keys. And now it's a new way of life. I literally only take my phone and keys. And if my card is not, I don't know, you can't add it to your Apple Wallet, for example, or Google Pay, as some people might use. It's really a barrier to wanting to bank or use the card now, if I was totally honest, because I have use for a handbag. I put it in my pocket and we're done.
I know. Isn't it weird? Because if you think, again, not that long ago, we all took out handbags that full of stuff. And actually now I've usually got like a £10 note in the back of my phone.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody doesn't take cash. But otherwise, when you've got your phone, you've got all your means of communication, you've got your banking, you've got Doqit on it, you've got access to all your paperwork. So you've got everything on the go. You don't need the big. So our shoulders are grateful for that.
Oh, definitely. I don't disagree with you. And bags take up far too much space anyway, if we were honest. Yeah. What were some of the early no one tells you this lessons that you learned from building in the tech world?
So I would say for anyone starting out on the startup journey, that big you don't know what you don't know is huge, because unless you've done it before, you don't know. And there's loads of business books out there, but none of them can really get you ready for that. You don't know what you don't know. And everything takes longer.
Yeah.
Way longer. Everything costs way more than you think it's going to cost. And I think you can do things in the wrong way. So we started speaking to potential customers really, really early to make sure that there was a want and a need. But that's something that I've seen a lot of other people where they do, they kind of build it and they'll come. And it's like, this isn't a field of dreams. You need to, and that, I think that's something I've seen a lot. But the key thing for me was the length of time. So the length of time things take, the cost. And actually, and again, this is something that's happened during COVID, the speed that technology's moved at. So what we used early on to build our beta, never do it that way now. You could actually do it using a no-code piece of software, like Lovable, that you could maybe pay a subscription, £20 a month for, and really whip something up super, super quickly. So there's all of those things, but you don't know what you don't know. And the other thing I would say is I wasn't sure where to go to for advice. And I actually asked quite a lot of the wrong people.
Okay.
Because you do think that, oh, well, my goodness, that person is head of, oh, I don't know, head of finance, head of distribution, head of for a big global company. But what they've got round about them is they've got staff, they've got processes, they've got procedures. When you've got a startup, you've got the back of a fag packet and an idea. Yeah. So it's not that never the twain, but actually you can get really bad advice. So what I didn't have access to, because I didn't know where to go immediately, was like good, strong founder networks. So speaking to other founders who were at a similar stage, founders who exited, founders who had had to wrap up their businesses for lots of different reasons, and their insights are solid gold.
Yeah, because they've lived that journey and it's different. Academics and living the journey, I don't believe anyone really puts you or prepares you enough for the obstacles that you need to overcome. And I think that having come from a corporate in a previous life, you're absolutely right. There's departments, there's someone to do each job. It all looks great on a piece of paper, but when you're the person doing it all and you've got to carry the can for more or less or every job, especially when you start out, until you get to a certain point. But even then, you're the visionary, you're the leader, and you know where your business is going, right?
Yeah. And you do have to do everything, because when you've got a startup, then I would say 9 times out of 10, you start off with an idea. You're not starting off with, oh, listen, I've got a couple of £100,000.
Right.
I've got an idea. And that's another thing that you think, this is a great idea. People are going to want to back it. And it's like, oh, what are they doing? Oh, right, okay. So that's another big lesson, is that you have the amount of work you have to do to prove that you are investable to then help get your business to the next level. And that's really tough. And a lot of people don't make it because it's hard, because while you're doing that, you don't have a salary coming in. Unless you're doing your business as a side hustle, and that then presents itself as, from not all investors, but from some investors, or you're not dedicated. So there's lots of, I think, funnily enough, I was chatting to someone this morning, and she said, what she said was true. She said, if entrepreneurs knew what the journey was going to be before they started, 99% wouldn't do it. And it's like, it's true. Because if I had thought when I did my stake in the ground of this time next year, Rodney will be millionaires, that what the journey was going to be, I probably wouldn't have. But actually, I'm so glad I have, because I have learned more. I've met the most incredible people, and I love it. I feel absolutely determined to help as many people around the globe just to get their time back and reduce their stress. I just really want to do that. And as time moves on, I don't get a bit wishy-washy about it. I'm like, no, I'm absolutely going to do this. I'm going to help you. Let's do it.
So it's interesting. So from my perspective, I would say that your app, Doqit, is a no-brainer, right, when it comes to life admin, mainly because I speak for myself. I find it, I'm not an admin person, number one. I put my hand up. I do it because no one else is going to do it. It's invisible, it's exhausting, and somehow it always is urgent, or we leave it until it's always urgent. I'm so interested to know why were you not investable? Why was the business not investable when
it was just
part of everybody's life, is what I'm saying. I'm like, this makes sense.
I think that's a really great question, because a great idea is a great idea. It's all about execution. And actually, we were really lucky. I raised investment pre-product. So before we built the beta, I raised to build the beta. And that was because we had done a lot of work on understanding who the customer was. So we'd done a lot of digging, and we built some really early proofs of concept to get people to engage with, so that we were able to say, actually this is what makes it investable. And we're going to be raising investment again, even though we're on the App Store to get us to the next level. But it's all about the thing that makes you investable is it something that people will pay for?
Yeah.
And are you the person and do you have the right team to actually grow the business? Because everybody's got great ideas.
Okay. Do you think that women carry more of this load by default? And does that show up in your own life or the people around you as well?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And the research that we have done and we've carried out has shown that it is primarily women who look after the life admin in the household, but it's not always.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of really great male who are husbands and fathers. Well, I think they're partners and fathers who do the life admin, but it is primarily the women. And I think that goes back historically to when women weren't like often the breadwinner, the main breadwinner in the house. Now they are. And that they were the one that took on the sort of domestic duties. And the domestic duties have gone back maybe 40 years ago. The paperwork element of it was far less because there was less regulation, there was less legislation, there was no subscriptions. We maybe had one bank account, one insurance policy, and maybe a rent book. And that was almost your kind of subtotal of your life admin. There was 3 channels on the TV. So now when you look at life in general and how that's grown, but someone has to do that life admin. So it's often fallen to the woman who's also working full time, who's looking after the kids, who's doing all the school admin.
Yeah.
And then there's 35 WhatsApp groups that need attention to too. No wonder people are stressed.
It's very interesting you say that actually, because my mum was a full-time working mother for, I think, maybe 365 days of the year. That's how it felt to me anyway, right, when you're a kid. And we were just talking about how things have changed. And she actually said, yeah, I think actually I had it easier in my time. She said, because I went to work, I didn't have all of this other stuff, she said. And the expectation on women now is different. She said, because I have lots of expectations that you have just because I turned up at work every day. She said, whereas for you, and I have a sister too, she goes, you have to take on so much more than what I did. And she goes, and I see that. And she goes, it's almost like, yes, we got to work. Yes, we got to make businesses and have something for ourselves. But so much else has just definitely not changed, or actually reversed is how she sees it. She feels that where we are now is definitely still not comparable to even where she was, where she didn't have the pressure of society and having to do it all at the same time. And she's openly admits that she didn't feel that. She felt fine just to go to work, come back, and she knew her girls would, mom and dad look after us, or we'd look after ourselves, as the case may have been.
But societal pressure these days, well, we're on to talk about that. When you look at social media, the expectation, we're all expected to be manicured, groomed, house is perfect,
Look at that.
life admin in order, and working 60 hours a week, and our children turning up at school fully prepared. Yeah, the expectations are quite horrendous. Reality, I know in this house, very different.
Absolutely. So you've said tech should simplify, not complicate.
100%.
Where do you think most apps or even businesses actually go wrong with this?
I would say, I believe that is when businesses and apps try to do something that they weren't designed to do, and they try to do too much.
Okay.
And they don't speak to their customers. Because, and there's always assumptions made. So where they'll say, so like our app, everything about it is based on simplicity and trust. Simplicity and trust has to be about that. So what we don't do is say, would you like to buy some gold sparkly shoes on a Wednesday night? We are a safe place where we're not offering you advice or storing your information. We're introducing some AI where it will say, you have got a mortgage, you've not got contents insurance. But what we're not going to do is start popping up lots of offers to you.
Yeah.
It keeps it really simple. We're not integrating anything that you don't need. Everything's consent driven by the user. So it's really, really simple. And I know there's a system that I use for the business. I'm not going to name it, but it's a great system, but it tries to do too much. And then when you've got a query, you get about 36 pop-ups taking you off different directions. And that's really off-putting. It's really off-putting. And I think keep things simple. Listen to your customers. What does your customer want? And if your customer isn't asking for the shiny shoes on a Wednesday night, don't offer them.
Because it becomes a very noisy marketplace, and not just inside of an app or whatever, but inside of your brain as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, and I myself included, I would just switch off from it because I can't handle this right now. I came in here because I needed simplification or help or whatever it might be. And now it's added another 20 things to my plate, which quite often I didn't need right now.
If things are taking too long or it's too hard, it's going to turn people off. The way I look at it is I'm only interested in things that can make my life simpler, easier, and reduce my load. If it can't do that, then it's not working. And we try and keep Doqit we're always looking at where are the friction points? How can we make it easier? How can we make it simpler? Because there's still a couple of minutes. Of course, there's still friction points. We're still early, but we're looking at not what we can add in, but what we can take out to make it easier for you, so you have to do less. Because if you have to do less, then you can go on.
That's right. You just won a big innovation award, from what I understand. What doors is that opening for you, and what's next for Doqit?
So we won that last year, and we won 50,000, which was incredible. It really was. It was, So we won it because it was a FinTech challenge around what products could help people be more financially prepared for living a longer life, because we're living 20 years longer than previous generations. But it doesn't mean we've got 20 years worth of cash more. So how can we make our cash last longer? And my response to that challenge was, if you know where your paperwork is, you know where your pensions are, your insurance is, you don't have money leaking out because you're on top of it simply, then you're more financially prepared. And I presented that in a really simple way, and we won. So what that did was, in terms of the actual cash itself, was it gave us the money to take Doqit from being the beta onto the App Store. So we went live on iOS and Android, because that was something that our users were saying, this is good, but I really want it as an app. And there was barriers as well from potential users emailing me saying, I'd love to download it, but you're not in the App Store. If you're not in the App Store, then we don't want to use it. I was like, right, okay. So we knew, and it was always a goal. And it also gave us runway to do some product market channel fit. So we did some testing across the different communications platforms. So like Meta, in-app advertising on the app stores, and to find out where was our customer coming from. So that has given us the metrics, it's given us the product to a stage where we're now ready to go for that next investment round. So it was really great, and it was non-diluting. So that was absolutely fantastic. We were really chuffed to win that.
Of course you were, because it sounds like you can go on to do even more amazing things now with that app.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
For the woman listening who thinks she's maybe too late, too busy, or too far behind, what do you wish that she knew?
That she can do whatever she wants. That actually she is in control of her own destiny. And how you talk to yourself is the most important conversation you will ever have on a daily basis. So if you tell yourself you're behind, if you tell yourself you can't, then that's true. But if you start looking in the mirror and just high five that girl, I know that's about, I've forgotten her name.
I'm sure it was Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins, who's great, but it's true. But actually, if you look in the mirror and say, yeah, you look good today, and talk to yourself the way you would talk to someone you loved, someone you cared about, and stop doing that old, oh, you can never do that, oh, you're daft. It's like, because your brain takes all of that in. So be kind to yourself, talk yourself up, because it's never too late. It's never too late. And I know, as someone who started Doqit when I was 55, I have a child who's got complex additional needs. And I think, if I can do it, honestly, and I didn't go to university, if I can do it, anyone can. You just ask for help and set out your intention and say, I'm going to do it.
And I think a lot of that is the asking for help bit. That can be difficult. That can be difficult. And just knowing that it's okay and you're worth it.
100%.
And just for fun, Catherine Ann, what's one piece of life admin you still can't deal with or you don't like dealing with?
Me personally was the one like, I'm still going to say. It's always the tax return. And so I think I would say anything that can generate a brown envelope, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Because no matter, when a brown envelope comes in, you still look at it and go, what have I done? It's like getting a row from your parents. You think, oh, I've done something wrong.
And you're so right. And it could just be something really quite innocent, like a normal communication.
Quite often is. It quite often is. But I always think anything that's got a legal implication, that like, so anything from HMRC, tax return, I always get, because it has to be right. And here's the other thing, it has to be in time.
Oh, yes, it does. You are right. So for a lot of us, it's a good deadline to work to in one way, as long as you're organised.
As long as you're organised. But don't make that deadline their deadline. Make your deadline 2 months before and give yourself breathing space. That's what I would say.
So life admin doesn't sound revolutionary until you realise how much of your headspace it steals. And Catherine Ann isn't just building a tool, she's freeing up time, energy and mental bandwidth for the stuff that actually matters, like tax returns, for example. And as we come to the end of today's episode, please tell our listeners where they can find you online and how they can learn more about your work.
Oh, thank you. So you can find the app on your app store. It's Doqit, Doqit. You can find out more about the company and read our blog on our website, which is doqit.io. So that's doqit.io. And you can find me, Catherine Ann Reid, on LinkedIn. And all of the links to our Instagram and TikTok are on the website, so you can find them there. But if anyone's got any questions, I do always offer a 20-minute session. Drop me a note, we'll get a call in and let's see if I can help you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you for that, Catherine. And I encourage everyone listening to check those links out, and they will be in the show notes too. Do follow the Trailblazers on Instagram, LinkedIn, or visit thetrailblazehers.com to stay updated on future episodes and behind-the-scenes content. Once again, I'm Disha Solanki with Catherine Ann Reid, founder of Doqit. Thank you for listening today.
Thanks, Disha.